Good evening. How are you? Well, now the temperature is pretty comfortable, 79 degrees. Humidity is 52, and the wind, according to Thomas Jefferson, is 1.2 miles an hour. Could that even move the thing that registers the speed of the wind? I don't know. There's all sorts of assholic activity going on in our government. And if you just sense the trend lines of the crazy things we're doing, you cannot but be embarrassed and angry that our so-called leaders who are in a position to make a difference aren't. And so you and I and others become the ancillary representatives of a republic that allows for the election of people, as opposed to the current model under Trump, which is to figure out a way to appear to have an election by stealing it, by drawing lines and making all sorts of foul changes in the election laws and discriminating against individuals based on color and perhaps other things, playing the electoral college game in the general election. If there is an election, either next year or for the presidency. So, for example, let's choose the example of, let's rewrite the districts in such a way that we, the Republicans, can hang on to the House of Representatives. So let's take 5 districts in Texas and remodel them so that we minimize the vote by blacks and Hispanics, but we manage to keep the seats, make the seats Republican. And then that's it. We can hold on to the House and we can continue to have this fraud of a democracy move forward. Not acceptable. Now, the principal tool that is being used against the Texans who are Democrats who said, I think we'll go to New York. I think we'll go to Illinois. I think we'll go to other places. And so the governor and the Republicans in the Texas legislature want to direct somebody to go arrest them. Now, first of all, there's several levels of this that they'd be entirely amusing if they weren't so dangerous. Because it appears this day, if you can come up with a story, you can do whatever you want. And no one pushes back. So people scratch their head and say, well, what is the law? Okay, let's begin with the quorum. A quorum says that a certain number or percentage of people must be present for, in this case, a legislature to do business. The Republicans, the Democrats rather, by absenting themselves, have denied the Texas legislature the ability to do business. Now, they say, you can't do that, you Dems. You can be arrested and forced back here. But ask yourself, doesn't the existence of a practice of quorum in a legislative body suggest that we know sometimes people are not going to be there? And if people are not there, you can't do business. It doesn't say if they leave because we're violating the Constitution and the state Constitution and the Voting Rights Act and a series of other prohibitions against treating people unequally and denying access to the democratic process based on race and color. That's their problem, is the way I see it, the Republicans' problem. The fact that there is a quorum means it's anticipated in their very structure that people will be absent. Now, in the general case, it could be Democrats or Republicans, it could be occasional, it could be lots of times, it could shut down a legislature. It could force something like what happens with parliaments. We have to have a national election. Well, in this case, we have to have a Texas election. We have to decide who we are, from what districts. Chaos. That's what Republicans are for. Any means to get to the end where they win, whether justified or not. So that's the quorum. Now, since we're in Texas, let's think about Mexico. Trump is thinking, he doesn't say invade Mexico, but we're going to police the cartels. Well, really, he didn't really care about the cartels in his first administration, so why does he care now? He cares now because he's thinking, you know, it may be possible. I could take even more of Mexico over if I could just have the right story. And if people are thinking about me causing war, then they won't care about the fact that I align myself with a sex trafficking predator. And perhaps, you know, touched a few young ladies myself. That's I'm talking about Trump doing that, not myself. So we have a situation in which Trump is telling armed forces to enforce our drug laws against cartels. Now, Barr once agreed to send troops, 20,000 troops, to go after Noriega in Panama. So there have been unconstitutional precedents for this, but that was not embraced, and Congress reacted pretty strongly back then, and there were hearings. Some may remember the Contra Fawn and Holly combination. So where are we now? Well, here's the problem with an invasion. Number one, it's an act of war. If we cross a line, like Netanyahu might if he were here, then it's an act of war to go into another country. There is no declaration by Congress to war against Mexico. There's a provision, posse comitatus, that you can't use armed forces to enforce criminal law. You're not wandering prosecutors. You're not that. And so what we have is still another occasion that should justify the International Court of Justice, the UN, all these different bodies, our own bodies, censorship, impeachment, all censure the president. And what good would that do? Well, for Christ's sakes, at least you're doing what the Constitution says. You're doing what the law says. You're actually responding, other than just bullshitting the world. Oh, we care about this. I can't believe it. Isn't that? Did you see he's doing that? What is that? That's weak. It's timid. It's cowardly. It's a failure of the oath of office. So, meanwhile, anybody who supports Netanyahu at this point has got to take a close look at their own ethics. That bastard is out there killing people because he's going to wipe them all out. And last I checked, there is no country on the planet that, at least in their founding documents, says you can go and kill people just because you disagree with them and because you can't cabin them off to protect yourself. You're not in the business to do that. Children, women, non-combatants. Yes, what happened at the start was one thing, but now they both own war crimes, and they should be brought to justice. Netanyahu should be prosecuted in his own country for his corruption, and the International Court should prosecute him for what he's doing, how he's waging war in such a way, ironically, it is a genocide. This is not acceptable. The earth is in turmoil because people are not standing up who ran for office and have held these offices for a long time, and they're not bringing cases in court. The civilians are doing that. We, the people, do that. They don't do this. Meantime, we have an incompetent taking away things that help people who may be ill. RFK Jr., not so smart. But the real question is, how do we suffer a person like this when the health of the people are at risk? How do we tolerate cutting off funds for science and education? How do we stop research? How do we discourage the use of the renewables, of electric cars? What is wrong with us? A long time ago, I guess I ran for office in 1984. In 1985, they decided to get rid of the Office of Technical Assistant, which was an impartial body that studied the science of the time and informed the public in an impartial way what we should be thinking about. What was the value of this or that idea in public concern? And, you know, there's no end to Trump's invasions. He's talking to Cuomo. I don't know if presently they're both denying it happened, but everybody says it happened. And why? Isn't that a reason not to vote for Cuomo? Doesn't that prove he's old guard? When I was a young Democrat in New York, I was a reformer. This fits the reform program, to denounce a person like Cuomo for doing exactly what he's doing. Is he going to offer the deal that the outgoing mayor, at least we hope he's outgoing, offered? He's going to say, I'll do your bidding for you. Give me a hand. Give me $1 billion. Let me win this election. Is that the conversation? What other kind of conversation could it be? Could you whistle in the dark to the MAGA people and say they support me? And why? And then Democrats, they don't know what to do because they don't want, they're worried about Mondani. People are actually responding to Mondani. And what are they responding to? They're responding to the fact that we, the people, are entitled to services. How can people get around New York? Can we help them? How can we feed people? How can we house people? How can we make New York City a place where people can live safely, have dreams, have aspirations, have ambition? And isn't that a program from all of America? And you know why they don't like Mondani? Because, unlike my problem saying his name, this guy's the real thing. He was a state legislature. People had a chance to look at him. He didn't come out of the blue. And he's talking to the people. He's not a capitalist. They say he's a socialist. An American socialist is someone who gives a damn about the people and whether they're getting services from their government. I think we could use some of that. I think we have to stop being two-faced. Of course, Trump is one-faced, always lying. And if he ever admits to something, on that rare occasion, you can trust it, because he doesn't even know how to deceive us. He is a stupid man of low birth, with no quality. And when I say low birth, I mean the genetic material, the character, the whatever, which came from his father, who hated people. And I don't know what the story was with his mother, but we do know that Trump basically ran his brother into the ground so he could replace him in the family business. Well, we now have him, after military school, after years of lies, bankruptcies, misconduct of every sort, recently found so in courts and around the country. And so what are we going to do? We have to give this guy the heave-ho, and we have to challenge every elected representative, at least in phone calls and notes and letters, and tell them, do your damn job, because you're not now. And when we lose this country, it'll be on you. And that may not matter to anybody. Apparently it doesn't matter to you. But we have to fight for this to be a republic and for people to be in elections allowed to vote based on fair rules that Trump has no interest in. So, no, I don't know what got into me. But I say good evening to you from my Cathedral of Trees. And with any luck, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.